First up, a Mississippi abortion law challenging Roe v. Wade has finally made its way to the Supreme Court. So what does this mean? I'll tell you in just a moment. Up next, the Biden administration, and Joe Biden specifically, now has harsher words for Americans than he does for terrorists who are actually bombing Israel. And finally, AMAC's Vice President of Strategic Partnerships, Meyer, is here with an update for AMAC members on the AMAC Magazine and some important information that you're not going to want to miss coming to your mailboxes. Quick reminder, though, if you haven't shared this video with your family and friends on social media, make sure you help us fight big tech and hit that share button right now. Your AMAC Weekly News starts right now. Several years ago, Mississippi made a brilliant move in creating a law that was specifically put into place to have it challenged all the way at the Supreme Court. What was this law? Well, in 2018, the state passed a law banning most abortions after a fetal heartbeat is detected or 15 weeks of pregnancy in Mississippi. Lower courts have been working to prevent this law from taking effect ever since 2018. But Mississippi was brilliant. They were brilliant because this law was intended on purpose to make its way to the Supreme Court in order to present a direct challenge to Roe v. Wade. Well, this week, the Supreme Court officially decided to take up this case. The landmark abortion case of Roe v. Wade was first introduced to a Texas court in 1970 and was eventually decided in 1973 by the United States Supreme Court. Now, at the time, medical knowledge left the court with only one option: to determine the case based on the viability of the unborn child as decided by the trimester of pregnancy. Now, at the time in 1973, the Supreme Court said that a state may begin to impose regulations on abortions related to the mother's health in the second trimester. But a state may only prohibit abortions in the third trimester because that is when the court believed the baby to be viable outside the womb. Now, the core question that Mississippi is trying to ask the Supreme Court is this: how much has medical science changed? Specifically, how much has it improved since the year 1970? Well, let's just take a look at human life expectancy, for example, in the world. In 1970, the average life expectancy around the world was at 56.9 years. In 2019, the last numbers we have on record, the number actually moved all the way up to an average of 72.6 years of age. Let's look at just the numbers in the United States, for example. In 1970, the average life expectancy of men in the United States was 67.09 years, and the average life expectancy of women in the United States was 74.69 years. Well, if you fast forward to 2019, see what the average life expectancy for men is? It's already increased to 76.38 years. And the average life expectancy for women increased all the way up to the age of 81.45. Now let's look at the reality. Those numbers are massive. Adding 5, 6, 7 years to life expectancy in the U.S. is incredible, all because of advancements in science and medical technology. And Mississippi understood this when they enacted this new law. They understood that those same advancements also apply to infant viability during pregnancy as well. So now, medical capabilities have allowed for infant survival far earlier than the third trimester, which begins in week 28 of pregnancy and lasts until birth. In fact, in 2017, in this country, a child survived birth at 21 weeks into the pregnancy, outside the womb. Most medical professionals have agreed upon 24 weeks as the age of viability for unborn children, with a survival rate between 60 and 70%. So the question that really every state in America should be asking, and the question that Mississippi is asking, is this: why don't current abortion laws reflect this update in viability? That is exactly what Mississippi is challenging, and we should all be thankful for them. Mississippi is leading the charge that will hopefully save lives of future unborn children, and liberals are freaking out about it. Mississippi leaders in 2018 knew that this law would be challenged, and that was the best way they thought to get it to the Supreme Court, to revisit Roe v. Wade. Now, to be very clear, Roe v. Wade may not be struck down in its entirety, no matter how much we may want that to happen. But it is very likely that the entire concept of viability will be updated to reflect the reality of medical science today. This is what we are fighting for. We are fighting to save as many unborn children as we possibly can. And Mississippi has taken us much closer to that goal. So Joe Biden has come out with some very harsh words for Hamas. Finally, these harsh words for the terrorists attacking our ally in the Middle East, Israel, are ones that we have been waiting for since the attacks began. He said, and I quote, "Those who are not vaccinated will end up paying the price." Oh, wait, my bad. Those harsh words weren't for the actual terrorists attacking Israel with bombs. No. This president did not have harsh words for terrorists this past week. In fact, those harsh words were directed at the American people who have made the choice to not get vaccinated. That's right. You, as an American, are in big trouble with Joe Biden. More than terrorists who are killing innocent people in the Middle East. Take a look.
Those who are not vaccinated will end up paying the price.
That's right. If you have not been vaccinated, you will be held responsible for any upticks in cases that the country experiences, no matter what. Joe Biden even sent out a tweet reminding you of just how serious he is about holding you accountable for your actions. Quote, "After a year of hard work and so much sacrifice, the rule is now simple. Get vaccinated or wear a mask until you do." Meanwhile, in Texas, Sunday marked the state's celebration of an entire day with zero COVID deaths. You heard that correctly, an entire day with zero deaths from the COVID-19 virus. This is the same state that Biden mocked just weeks ago for his so-called Neanderthal thinking by these ignorant people in flyover country because the governor there, Greg Abbott, removed the mask mandate.
And the last thing we need is the Neanderthal thinking that in the meantime, everything's fine, take off your mask, forget it. It still matters.
If you're waiting for Joe Biden to come out and apologize to all the flyover states that are filled with leaders that are Neanderthals for their thinking, you're going to be waiting a really long time. Guess what? He's not going to apologize. And if you're waiting for the mainstream media to hold him accountable for just how wrong Biden was when he said this, yeah, you're going to be waiting a long time for them to do that job as well. Instead, what's Biden doing? He is attacking Americans who use their freedom to choose not to get a vaccination rather than attacking actual terrorists who are doing bad things in the world against our ally and killing innocent people in the Middle East. Joe Biden is allowing members of his own party, in fact, to defend these terrorists, while his focus is solely on taking away the freedoms of Americans. It doesn't matter that COVID numbers are down so long as you know that if you don't do what the president tells you to do, then you, to quote him, will pay the price. We are watching the president try to mandate a vaccine without having to actually mandate a vaccine. That's what this really is. Welcome, my friends, to the Biden administration and exactly how much they're willing to tell you what you have to do to be in their good graces. One of the great things about being an actual member of AMAC are the member benefits. And one of those benefits is the AMAC Magazine, which we have just expanded with even more in-depth coverage of the important issues that you need to know about. Joining me now to talk about this is AMAC's Vice President of Strategic Partnerships, Kurt Meyer. Kurt, I appreciate you coming on. And, you know, the magazine is something that so many members get excited about seeing in their mailbox, but we've really expanded that magazine Magazine to have more in-depth coverage of a lot of the things that the Biden administration is doing in this country. And there's a special issue coming out. I'd love for you to hold it up and show it so people can see this and talk about what's going to be in this next issue.
Thanks, Ben, and always a pleasure to be on your show as always. So this is the most recent version that's coming out. It's going to hit the mailboxes in June. It's the June version. The magazine, as you mentioned, is one of our major member benefits. We used to produce it 4 times a year, and then back in 2018, we decided, based on the demand, to increase that to 6 times a year. So I just would like to give some important statistics about the magazine and, again, why it's such an important member benefit. We print about 1.5 million copies of this magazine each issue. The readership is over 2.3 million readers. So our members use this as a tremendous resource. It's always covering a lot of, up-to-date topics like illegal immigration and border crisis, election integrity, national debt, foreign policy and the China threat, AMAC advocacy on Capitol Hill, as well as a lot of member benefits that are in here for the AMAC membership. So it is a valuable resource.
And that's one of the things that I think is so important for people. That if you don't get this magazine, this is why you become a member, because not only are you getting in-depth information, especially about what's going on with the Biden administration and ways that you can fight some of these changes and laws that are coming down, not just at the state level, but also in D.C. But there's also in the magazine so many of the member benefits that AMAC members can take advantage of, and we've combined it. And that's why this magazine has grown to the readership that you just mentioned, because it gives you really 2 vitally important things, especially as the country is opening back up. So many people are now starting to travel again, starting to go across the country, get on airplanes, drive different places, and that's where you can take advantage of so many of the member benefits as well.
Absolutely. We've added more writers for more content. So like I mentioned earlier, it's becoming a very, very valuable resource to the AMAC membership.
You know, one of the other things about this magazine that you, and if you hold that magazine up again, is we're now trying to really use it as a tool to let you know exactly what this administration's doing. You look at that cover right there, and it's so accurate to what we're dealing with now, Kurt, in this country. And that is how fundamentally this administration is trying to change this country, and it's going to affect seniors more than probably anybody else.
Absolutely. Yeah. And like I said, I mean, more of the content is being increased. We're adding more pages to the magazine. Our members like to read. And we found out that a lot of times this magazine will sit on somebody's coffee table for a few months. They'll go back to it over and over again, which again is one of the reasons why we decided to increase the frequency of the publication.
Well, I can't tell people enough about the magazine right now, and really just this dedication from AMAC to make sure that we have the best writers and get you the best information about what's happening in this country as it continues to expand. Make sure you look for this in your mailboxes. And it's another reason why, if you're not a member of AMAC, that you need to join. These are just one example of the resources that you're going to get. These in-depth articles that you get on issues that are important. Like you said, our members love information and they love to read. You guys are doing a great job. Thank you for doing this, Kurt, and for coming on today, AMAC Weekly News.
Thanks so much, Ben. Always a pleasure to see you.
That's it for this edition of your AMAC Weekly News. And as we just talked about, if you haven't joined AMAC, looking at the AMAC Magazine is another perfect example of why it is now important for you to join. We are doing everything we can to give you the information that you need to fight back against what the Biden administration is doing. You also get these incredible member benefits when you are a member of AMAC, and as the country is opening back up and people are becoming more active and traveling, that's where you can also save so much money by working with our partners. And all of that is in our magazine. But most importantly, AMAC is representing more than 2 million conservatives each and every day, fighting for you on Capitol Hill and at the state level. So if you haven't joined AMAC, make sure you join. If you haven't renewed your membership, make sure you renew it. And also tell your family and friends about the work that AMAC is doing. I'm Ben Ferguson, and I'll see you back next week for our next episode.